Twice. I was young, didn't know much. Although he was gone, far away, out there fighting for freedom, I carried on, a foolish little girl. It's not easy to know if he'll come back. The same, not at all, or just parts. I saw it in my mom's eyes, even though she tried to hide it. She was scared, but not for herself, for us. I guess being young was ideal. Though we missed birthdays and holidays, I still didn't understand. My brother stepped up. A young boy, but responsible. He was not much older than I was, but he seemed bigger. Twice I've heard those 4 dreaded words. Say goodbye to Daddy. First time, I was young and didn't understand. But 4 years ago, I understood it and I held strong. It changed me. I am stronger. I am smarter. I can understand. But can I fight again?
I'm Kaylin, I'm 16 years old, and I'm the daughter of 2 veterans.
How old were you when you were first influenced by war?
I don't remember a time when I wasn't influenced by war. It's been going on for as far as I can remember.
Do you remember when your dad was first deployed?
I was very young, so I don't remember much, but I know that we went to our friend's house a lot, and we were shipped from place to place so we could have family time when my mom had to go work. We would hang out with other friends, and I remember we went to this one person's house where they had 4 sons, and we would hang out with them for a while.
What do you remember about him coming home?
I remember that we met in like a landing strip, and we had signs, and when we saw him, we hugged him, and my mom was crying. And my brother went up and hugged him, and I went up and hugged him, and then he had to, well, even before we could hug him, he had to go in formation, and I went up and held his hand. And I was like 6 years old. And it was something that I'm never gonna forget.
You were older for the second deployment. What do you remember about that?
I remember that it was kind of weird because no one else in my class was going through that. There were times when other kids were worrying about video games and what everyone should have, when I was worrying that my dad was gonna die in the battlefield. Even though he was safer the second time, there was still the risk of bombs.
How has having a military parent affected you up to today?
Even today, I have really bad PTSD, and I have some issues that when people leave, I'm not sure if they're gonna come back or if I'm gonna see them again, so I get a little stressed out when that happens. And thanks to being in a military family, I am a lot better in crises when they occur. I'm not freaking out, I'm very level-headed.
How was it like having your dad miss many years of your life?
It was difficult. He missed a ton of performances because my brother and I both did plays in middle school, and he wouldn't be there to see them, and occasionally we got the lead part, and it was hard to look out there and only see one parent when other people had both of them there. And then during holidays, he wouldn't be there, like birthdays and Christmas and Thanksgiving. And it would be hard because those are family events, and then we would try to Skype him, but back then it was hard to Skype someone who was on the battlefield. And it was really hard at sometimes. He wouldn't be there, and Shane would try to fill the void, but it wasn't the same because he's a dad. They're supposed to be there for important things like that.
Unfortunately, both my children have been raised basically at war. We've been at war most of their lives. I've seen a great deal going on with them. When they were first affected by it was September 11th. They were very, very young, and it has continued all the way through into their teen years. When they first were deployed, when their father was deployed the first time, they were 4 and 6. And then when he returned, they were 6 and 8. And there were a great deal of changes with them. When Shane was young, he had to face a lot of different things than other kids did. He also became much more empathetic. He was once, I tried to hide them from the news as much as possible because I didn't want them to know what was happening. But frequently, they'd catch things on TV. And there was an explosion in a dining facility in Iraq, and Shane caught a glimpse of it and started shrieking. And I immediately dropped down and grabbed him and said, "It's not your daddy, it's not your daddy. Your daddy's in Afghanistan." And Shane looked up at me with all 6 years of his wisdom and said, "But it's somebody's daddy, Mom." When their father deployed to Afghanistan, because they were so young, I don't think they really understood the effects that it was having on them. Kaylin was only 4 years old, and she went to bed one day, and when she woke up, Daddy was gone. And he didn't come home for a very, very long time. And when she was little, I would drop her off at preschool, and she would run out into the parking lot after me and trying to find me and constantly be asking when I was going to pick her up. She was very afraid that she would be left behind with nobody, and that was very difficult for a child of that age. She carries those effects still. You can see that when she has to say goodbye to anyone, or a friend, a family member. She has a difficult time knowing that she may not see them again. You also see that in Shane and Kaylin as well. You also see that they are very protective of each other, and basically as they learned in the military, they have each other's back. And that came from having to support each other through a deployment, not just once, but twice. The second time of the deployment was a little easier because they knew their dad wasn't at such high risk for injury. But they still were very afraid because they knew, having watched my husband and I lose service members and friends, they knew that no matter what, you don't always come home. And you don't always come home the same. And Shane and Kaylin saw that a great deal. I think the effects through both deployments were obvious. They had to see their father try to reintegrate and become part of the family again when we had operated for almost 2 years the first time and a full year the second time without him as part of the family. Skype can only do so much. It doesn't replace having the dad in the house or the service member in the house. And the kids definitely became more independent because of that. And that's independency that they gained from being military children at wartime is what has made them the people that they are today.
Still